In Trackmania 2020, the game features 8 main surface types, those being tarmac, dirt, grass, plastic, ice, water, bobsleigh, and wood. So in this video, I'm going to be making a track that features all 8 of these surfaces, but not only that, the surface also has to change every 5 seconds. Can I make a good map while also following these rules? Let's find out. For most maps, getting the first gear up is really important. So I'll begin the map with road because it has good acceleration and it also prevents gear issues. And I'll follow up with a booster into a smooth curve to the right. I'll place a hole right here to force the player onto the outside of the turn. Now let's try out this drift and see where the exit would be. To me, it looks like it should be something like this, but that might be a little too sharp. And it is. So we'll add one more block of space with a checkpoint. And now it's way more clean. So there's about the first 5 seconds of the map. Let's test it out and see how close to 5 seconds this part is. And it's almost exactly about 5 seconds. So this transition is actually very useful if we're going to the next surface. From here I'm going to go in order, so I'm going to follow it up with dirt, and then ice, and then grass, and then plastic, and then water, and then finally bobsleigh, and wood. This transition's a little unconventional, so I don't really know what to follow it up with. This could work, but it is a little bumpy and a little awkward. I'll look and see if there's maybe something else that's a bit cleaner. This looks pretty good. Okay, that transition's way cleaner. Now I can use that turn. This speed check is a little hard if you don't get the jump fully clean. So I'll add some penalty here just so you don't clip the edge of the block if you miss. By the way, if you're wondering why I didn't count these 3 as individual surfaces, is because they're basically just the penalty counterparts of the original blocks, so grass, dirt, and ice. And they have about the same grip properties as their counterparts, so they're not very different. I'm just going to gauge how long this dirt section is so far. It looks like you land on the dirt at about 2 seconds, which means I have about 3 seconds left of dirt. I'm trying to figure out a way where I can make it so that you can jump here to save time, but then you can also jump up here if you don't have enough speed. I guess that works. This transition just doesn't feel that clean, so I'm gonna get rid of it. And instead, I guess I could try rotating the block. Okay, that's more clean. And I guess I'll have to make do with this. I want to leave my options open for the next surface, so I'm just gonna have this plain open area. Now, I'm not an ice mapper, and I never said I was, but I have no clue how to map ice. I know the gears are very important, but they're also pretty weird how they work. All the ice mappers watching this video can feel free to flame me in the comments, because I am not very good at it. I think this start could actually do with a bit more space. So let's move everything back by 1. Now this section actually works pretty consistently. And this checkpoint happens around 6.6 seconds, which means now it's time to move on to the next surface. Grass and ice actually work pretty well together, definitely way better than ice and plastic. Now the map is a little simple right now, so maybe I should try to make this section a bit more complex. Something like a quarter pipe jump or like a big flip. I'll try to do a quarter pipe jump, but I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time. So you leave the ice at about half a second, which means the timer should say about 5.5 seconds at the end of this section. Before I do anything else, I'm just gonna quickly move the map towards the middle so I have a lot of space and plonk it down right there. Now I can start working on the quarter pipe. I'm also going to make this a little wider than just the single checkpoint block, because I've noticed it's a little hard to aim, whereas this is way easier. So now I just gotta figure out how to make the quarter pipe jump consistent. It is quite difficult to keep gear 4 out of the ice, I've noticed. And it actually could be impossible to keep it through this jump. But anyways, that jump is pretty clean. And now I'm pretty sure it's already time to move on to the plastic section. For the plastic, I'm going to try and make some sort of slalom section. Actually, I'm going to do something a bit more unique. I'm making this section quite bumpy and wavy, because that makes the gear at the beginning quite tricky to solve. And that's the plastic section about finished. Now, next up, we have quite possibly the worst section, water. First off, I gotta figure out how to make it so that you don't bounce when you enter. Okay, and that should work to get rid of the bounce. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's not much to do with the water surface. All you have is flat blocks, the triangle blocks, and then some that go underwater. But for this section, I don't think underwater is needed. You also got the effect blocks and the boosters, but I don't think those are needed either. Now I'm gonna test to see how long this section is. And you exit at almost exactly 6 seconds, which means this section is good. And now I have the choice between bobsleigh and wood, but I'm gonna start off with bobsleigh because I have a plan. You're just gonna have to wait and see. If you know Trackmania, this should be a hint about what's to come. Get out a checkpoint right before the bob section. Let's test it with a proper bob entry. And if you're driving this properly, this section's about 5 seconds. It would be nice to have 2 bob turns, but it takes way too long to transition from one turn to the other. So I'm gonna have to settle with this. And for the keen observers who have noticed, I have 100% icy tires and 100% wet tires at this point. And you can see the last surface I have left. So if you don't know what wet icy wood is, I'll put a video in here to show you. It basically combines the high grip of wood with the very low grip of ice and water. And because of that, this style causes a lot of weird interactions. Now you might be wondering, why are you mapping specifically this style? Well, it all started from someone making a comment on my previous video. They said, quote, "Have you considered mapping wet icy wood? I recommend." And I responded by saying, never in a million years are you catching me mapping wet icy wood. And you're probably wondering, okay, if you hate it so much, then why are you mapping it now? Well, to be honest, I kind of want to just be a little petty. So now, I'm mapping wet icy wood. Before, I was talking about how I didn't know how to map ice, but I think that's going to be like 10 times worse with wet icy wood. There's probably about like 3 mappers in the world that know how to do it, but I'm not one of them. In the few times I have seen wet icy wood, they usually use free block to put 2 blocks side by side like this. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. Let's test it out now. And that works slightly better. Probably as good as wet icy wood is ever going to work. So now I just got to figure out some sort of ending to the map. Maybe something like this. You know what? I'm not going to mess around with the tilted blocks. I'm just going to make this fully flat. This is a little scuffed, but we'll see if this works. I'll move the jump over here instead. And if I move the finish a little closer, I should make it almost 5 seconds on the dot. The route should be finished now. I'm gonna do some quick scenery and then show you the final product. And now the map is finally done. I put way more time into this map than I usually do, but overall I think that paid off. Now it's time for the grand reveal. And there's the map. Not the cleanest run, I can definitely say, but overall, this map was quite weird to play and to make. Let me know if you want to see challenges like this in the future, or if you have any ideas for other challenges I can do. Anyways, if you like this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I hope you learned something new today, and I'll see you next time.